of mice and, well, mice. Good evening, everyone. Or perhaps I should say, good evening. Welcome to Heart of Europa for yet another episode on animals. And
Hello.
I I completely lost my train of thought there. I am Lynx from Norway, and with me as always I have my beautiful co-hostess.
Katrina from the UK. Yes, tonight is all about mice. Animals which many of us may have had dealings with, no doubt.
Yeah, it's
I certainly
less
have. Little
so high up.
nuisances.
It's certainly not fun when they come up to you and explore your hair while you're trying to sleep.
Ah, no.
The joys
Not
of
fun.
cabin life.
Indeed.
But they are cute, though.
They are quite cute. I mean, they're wee everywhere. They're quite cute. If you can get past the fact. I suppose rats are quite cute in a way, the domesticated ones.
Yeah, but the mice are cuter in my opinion.
Well, they're smaller.
Yeah, and they're a bit rounder in their features and everything, so I suppose that's part of it. But as long as they keep away from my food, don't gnaw holes in my stuff, and certainly don't explore my hair, then I'm fairly fine with them. In other words, they should stay outside.
Yes.
Or in a cage.
Well, good evening to the chat. I can see the paradox about. I can see Dancing Penguin, who indeed says, good evening.
Yeah, I thought I should reply in kind, so yeah.
And I can see no, wait, that's from last week's stream. I can see who we got on YouTube. Oh, it's Ragnar. Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, good evening everyone, and thank you Dummy for the lemon. That is very kind of you, and good to see you as always.
Yes. So, yeah, when it comes to mice, we certainly have a very set of expectations about them in the European canon and what they're associated with. I know off the top of my head, I mean, I'd say things like timidity and shyness, sneakiness, weakness, often foolishness, I think.
Yeah, I get the impression that mice is used to represent the small folk, so to speak. Those who might not seem as strong and powerful as many others, which is an interesting aspect. So, yeah, a lot of the stories involve, how they have to keep their wits about them in order to outsmart their predators. How to get their food and all of that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And it's certainly stuff that keeps cropping up in the folk tales we're going to read tonight. I sort of looked at the history of them, and they've had a bit of a complex history, mice. I mean, certainly being compared to one has been an insult from a long while back. There was King Takos of Egypt, who was really disappointed once with how scrawny his Spartan ally was. And apparently he said the mountain labored, Jupiter stood aghast, and a mouse ran out. Which I can only believe must have been ye olde sick burn. Because it doesn't hit me very hard, but I suppose he's comparing the guy's physique to that of a mouse or something. But
Yeah.
I don't
Uh,
really I don't really know if it was an insult maybe in the way one would think. Because I found a lot of stuff with regards to the association of mice and maybe various gods. Have you ever heard of any folk beliefs regarding mice from around your sort of way? Because I've certainly found stuff from Egypt and Greece, to be sure.
not. Uh, seemed my microphone weren't responding for a second.
Okay.
We don't really have, that I know of at least, any connection between mites and gods. As I said, they tend to be more a picture of the small folk, the regular folk, which I suppose is because they're not predators.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Other than that, yeah, they're mainly just cute, in my opinion. The stories are mainly just cute stories.
That's true. But yeah, they've been sort of regarded with sort of equal parts fear and reverence at times because the ancient Egyptians were apparently quite scared of mice. They definitely saw them as carriers of disease and destroyers of crops, which is true. They may be really small, but they can do a lot of damage in large numbers. And they sort of associated all rodents and pestilence with their goddess Sekhmet. And apparently, uh, ruins of houses from the times of great pharaohs were found with mouse holes plugged up with stones. That's probably quite an obvious solution. But mice used to have this sort of medicinal aspect to them as well. So apparently the Egyptians would use them to cure anything from upset stomachs to baldness.
Well, when I did a search the other day for the stream thumb, I did actually come across an article which I didn't actually read, I just saw the headline of, I think it was a Nigerian mouse delicacy.
Oh
Safe to
no.
say,
No, I don't wanna know.
I'm not going to try it. I'm not going to see what it is. So,
But
yeah.
yeah, no, I don't want to eat a mouse. No.
No. I'll leave that one for Luna. She can have them.
I mean, I'm sure maybe they're tasty. I mean, I'm sure a hungry man doesn't turn his nose up at a decent rat on a stick. For any Pratchett fans out there, but yeah, not for me. Not for me. But
Me
yeah,
neither. There. It is said that frog legs are tasty, but I'm not going to try those either. So,
those
yeah.
those are eaten by the French, and the French are weird. Sorry, English prejudice.
Yeah, Kalotapug in YouTube, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, has an interesting comment. She says, I don't think mice are cute, which is fair enough. Having said that, in Spain, the tooth fairy is a little mouse called Tontico Perez. So that's a bit interesting. And also
fairy.
which also takes my mind to, of course, Baby Teeth, that pirate did the wonderful reading of. So
yes, do check that out. As that is one hell of an oof. sort of a story. It's like, "Ugh."
Yeah.
That's the only noise that really describes it.
Yeah, the tooth fairy in Norway is basically just a fairy who collects teeth and gives money back for it in return. So,
Hmm.
not a mouse.
What? But in Spain, he or she is a little mouse. Hmm.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I could see this association between mice and medicine and healing. Apparently, they're often mummified and placed in temples with pharaohs, which there are news articles to confirm their findings with pharaohs. But they also seem to be associated with Apollo as well, actually, um, because Apollo was sometimes called Smintheus, Mouse Apollo or Apollo, Lord of Mice. And of
interesting.
course, he's associated. Yeah, it is because he's associated with the medicine and healing. It's actually like in Egypt, and that's sometimes himself or like goes to his son Asclepius. Apollo can cure epidemics, but he can also cause them with his arrows. He shoots arrows at people, and people fall to plague. So, an image of a small rodent was placed by his sacred tripod, and nobody really knows that the images that are around Apollo sites with mice are to pacify him in his avatars of God as disease and pestilence, or they're there to honor him. Um, but Greece, they had a lot of profiles of mice on coins of various city states. So that is something that I didn't know they were associated with actually, both disease and healing. I mean, the death life duality, it doesn't really surprise me because that's quite common for those two to be in one symbol, like Algis. That's got both death and life associations. And at the very beginning of the world as well, in most cultures, is the death of something, usually a primordial being, to create something else. So I'm not surprised that mice can be associated with both disease and healing, and that it follows that what has the power to give disease has the power to take it away again.
Yeah, in order to control one aspect, you have to control the opposite of it as well.
Mhm.
I do find it interesting how so many stories involve mice, but not rats. Where the
Well,
rats
there,
come into the picture, it's more like the Pied Piper or something like that. It seems to be
they're definitely
more,
seen as more straightforwardly malign.
yeah, and definitely very associated with illness.
Yeah, pretty much always. Like, there's no positive side to rats in most beliefs about them. And mice are regarded in Christianity as symbols of wickedness. But the folk beliefs have also been known to say that mice are the souls of the dead. They come out of the mouths of the dead, as their souls are leaving. And I thought that was a pretty interesting one, actually, because that sounds quite pre-Christian.
Indeed.
And
So,
apparently, yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
they do have associations with unclean spirits and demonic creatures as well, and chthonic forces in sort of Bulgaria who have a lot of ceremonies, which I might post a bit more of. I found a good article about the things that Bulgaria does to appease the mouse spirits. I'm talking like feasts and mouse days and little mouse marriages and all sorts of
Yeah.
stuff. So I might have to post that because that's quite cool. And also they're literally been sacred animals as far afield as Peru, which obviously South America had Indo-European contact far long ago than is commonly thought. So
Yeah,
yeah, lots of interesting stuff about the mice,
yeah,
symbolically speaking, in the
absolutely.
past.
Yeah. Um, Maybe we should listen to what one single mouse can do. Though they're not very strong, they do have their advantages as well.
Hmm. They do indeed. And I think that there's certainly advantages to knowing someone that small. Shall we then have the lion and the mouse?
Indeed, we shall.
The Lion and the Mouse. Aesop's Fables. A lion lay asleep in the forest, his great head resting on his paws. A timid little mouse came upon him unexpectedly, and, in her fright and haste to get away, ran across the lion's nose. Roused from his nap, the lion laid his huge paw angrily on the tiny creature to kill her. "Spare me," begged the poor mouse. "Please let me go, and some day I will surely repay you." The lion was much amused to think that the mouse could ever help him, but he was generous and finally let the mouse go. Some days later, while stalking his prey in the forest, the lion was caught in the toils of a hunter's net. Unable to free himself, he filled the forest with his angry roaring. The mouse knew the voice, and quickly found the lion, struggling in the net. Running to one of the great ropes that bound him, she gnawed at it until it parted, and soon the lion was free. "You laughed when I said I would repay you," said the mouse. "Now you see that even a mouse can help a lion. A kindness is never wasted."
So yeah, it's always like this. Even the small ones has their implements that they can use as well.
They do. And I thought that was a very nice story because it sort of encourages compassion, to a, well, one should encourage compassion to a reasonable degree. But usually doing a kind act for someone is not going to be wasted if one is discriminating with the character of the people you're doing kind acts for.
Yeah, and you might not know what kind of service you can get in return. It might not be obvious, but then you will be paid back in a way that might even matter the most to you. So, not everything is obvious all of the time, which definitely
No.
is something to keep in mind.
That is true. That is very true. I'm just having a check in the chat. We've got more people joined us in YouTube. We've got Bas Klutvik. We got Luminatus in the YouTube as well, and Arpal, and Kieran and Airthrin. I've offended Illuminatus. He says not all French are weird. Yes, they
Well,
are.
I'm not British, so
Sorry, the French.
I don't have any prejudice against the French because I'm Norwegian. So yeah.
That's fair. I mean, us and the French have been fighting on and off for a while now. Certainly in comparatively recent history that we'd actually stopped.
Yeah, same with the Norwegians, Swedes, and Danes. So I do get what you mean, though mine is reserved for my dear neighbors to the east and the south.
Mm. I mean, I have respect for the French as an enemy. You know where you stand with the French. How we all wish to return to the good old days of merely fighting with the French.
Well, right now there are other enemies to focus on, so we'll have to
Indeed.
get back to that later.
Whole damn New World Order
Yeah.
type shenanigans going on. Oh, Kieran says mice are based. Are they? Are mice based? Are mice based, chat? Uh, one in the chat for yes, two for no.
Some might be, though I won't claim that everyone is.
Well, we shall have to leave it up to you lot to decide whether the nice internet stories are indeed based.
Yeah.
We've got one vote for mice are based.
A tentative one in D-Live as well.
Yes, a tentative one, like, oh, I don't know. I've never really been asked to contemplate this question before. Can an animal be based? What is based?
Oh, don't go into existential questions like, what is based?
That is the deepest existential question of them all.
Oh, yeah.
What based? Oh dear. They do have large families. Very large.
Yeah, they do tend to be very fertile.
Yeah. So we sort of have like a mixture of some fables and one really comparatively a lot more modern story tonight, but I have fond memories of it anyway. And I think that there was a funny bit of analysis of it which we shall get into later.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear.
You know, you should
Sort of
be
the
surprised.
interpretations.
You should be surprised, but you're not anymore.
Yes. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think up next we've got another unlikely partnership.
Indeed,
The
we
most
do.
unlikely partnership. The natural
Yes.
enemies,
Yeah, and
as it were.
so let's see how it goes with cat and mouse in partnership. Cat and Mouse in Partnership, a fairy tale by the Brothers Grimm. A cat had made the acquaintance of a mouse, and had said so much to her about the great love and friendship that he felt for her, that at last the mouse agreed that they should live and keep house together. But we must make preparations for winter, or else we shall suffer from hunger, said the cat. And you, little mouse, cannot venture out everywhere, or in the end you will be caught in a trap. This good advice was followed, and they bought a pot of fat, but they did not know where to store it. Finally, after much consideration, the cat said, I know of no place where it will be better stored than up in the church. No one dares take anything away from there. We will put it beneath the altar and not touch it until we need it. So the pot was stored safely away, but it was not long before the cat took a great longing for it and said to the mouse, I wanted to tell you, little mouse, that my cousin has brought a little son into the world, and she has asked me to be his godfather. He is white with brown spots, and I am to hold him over the baptismal font. Let me go out today, and you look after the house by yourself." "Yes, yes," answered the mouse, "by all means go. And if you get anything good to eat, think of me. I would like to drink a drop of sweet christening wine myself." All this, however, was untrue. The cat had no cousin, and had not been asked to be godfather. He went straight to the church, crept up to the pot of fat, began to lick at it, and licked off the top of the fat. Then he went for a stroll on the roofs of the town, looked out for opportunities, and then stretched out in the sun, licking his whiskers whenever he thought of the pot of fat. He did not return home until it was evening. "Well, here you are again," said the mouse. "You must have had a happy day." "Everything went well," answered the cat. "What name did they give the child?" asked the mouse. "Top off," said the cat quite coolly. "Top off?" cried the mouse. "That is a very odd and uncommon name. Is it the usual one in your family?" "What does it matter?" said the cat. "It is no worse than Crumb Thief, as your godchildren are called." Before long, the cat was seized by another fit of longing. He said to the mouse, "You must do me a favor and once more manage the house alone for a day. I have been asked again to be godfather, and since the child has a white ring around its neck, I cannot refuse." The good mouse consented. However, the cat crept behind the town wall to the church and devoured half the pot of fat. "Nothing tastes as good as that which one eats by oneself," he said, and was quite satisfied with his day's work. When he arrived home, the mouse asked, "What name was this child christened with?" "Half Gone," answered the cat. "Half Gone? What are you saying? I have never heard that name in all my life. I'll wager is not in the almanac." The cat's mouth soon again began to water for the delicious goods. "All good things come in threes," he said to the mouse. "I have been asked to be godfather again. The child is totally black, only it has white paws. Otherwise it has not a single white hair on his whole body. This only happens once every few years. You will let me go, won't you?" "Top off." "Half Gone," answered the mouse. "They are such odd names that they make me stop and think." "Here you sit at home," said the cat, "with your dark grey fur coat and long braid of hair capturing fantasies. That is because you do not go out in the daytime." During the cat's absence, the mouse cleaned the house and put it in order, but the greedy cat devoured all the rest of the fat. "One has peace only after everything is eaten up," he said to himself. Well filled and fat, he did not return home until night time. The mouse immediately asked what name had been given to the third child. "You will not like it either," said the cat. "His name is All Gone." "All Gone?" cried the mouse. "That is the most worrisome name of all. I have never seen it in print. All Gone! What can that mean?" Then she shook her head, curled herself up, and lay down to sleep. From this time forth, no one invited the cat to be godfather. But when winter had come, and there was no longer anything to be found outside, the mouse thought of their stored food and said, "Come, cat, we will go to our pot of fat which we have stored for ourselves. It will taste good now." "Yes," answered the cat, "you will enjoy it as much as you would enjoy sticking that dainty tongue of yours out of the window." They set out on their way, but when they arrived, the pot of fat, to be sure, was still in its place, but it was empty. "Alas," said the mouse, "now I see what has happened. Now it comes to light. You are a true friend. You ate everything when you were serving as godfather. First top off, then half done, then be quiet, cried the cat. One more word and I will eat you too. All gone was already on the poor mouse's lips. She had scarcely spoken it before the cat sprang on her, seized her, and swallowed her down. You see, that is the way of the world. So, yeah. Sharing house with your natural enemy might not be the wisest decision to make.
No, it isn't. And I think it's certainly quite relevant today because we do, in many spheres of life, have a tendency to make friends with the cat, as it were.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about any occasion on which you make friends with someone who's clearly a bully or a predator or some such sort of thing, in hopes that being nice to them will get them to be nice to you or confer on you some sort of advantage that comes from their strength. Which,
yeah.
that doesn't work because a predator is a predator
Yeah.
and it's going to eat you eventually.
Try not to be the snack of the predator, which is stored up for winter, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, it's an unfortunate dynamic, really. And it's rife in today's society and ends up with things like the attitude you have where hardened wife beaters are sent to anger management classes because there's a perception that you can reason with someone or something which is inherently predatory.
Yeah, or quite bad crimes being excused by cultural differences. And,
Yep.
well, they don't know our culture, so we should feel sorry for them. They didn't mean it, you know?
Yep. And it's sort of the excuses of ignorance or not meaning or radicalization or mental illness. It's like no, that's because that's what that sort of person would be inclined to do.
Yeah, and we do see that with the mouse at the end, that she doesn't question the cat being at christenings, even though she then realized he'd gone there and eaten up all the fat. But she didn't question the initial lie about the christening. So
No, she didn't.
it's still a bit of naivety on her part, I would say.
Yeah, because she's sort of taken the cat at the word, which the first time is maybe fair enough, but the second time, surely kittens are not being born so frequently as all that.
Not one by one, at least. They do come in
No,
litters, so
indeed. So yeah, just a sort of a warning there about making sure you can actually trust someone before you enter into an arrangement with them,
yeah,
and remembering what people are
yeah,
as well.
and that is a theme I've seen prop up in folk stories and everything quite often. In that, it's included with beware of the stranger.
Yeah.
When you don't know them, don't trust them, don't let them talk you around. for anything. Keep your wits about you, and remember that you can't trust everyone. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah, especially don't make friends with people whom you're probably ancestrally opposed to,
Yeah.
or whose ideologies are gonna really oppose every value that you fundamentally hold dear.
Yeah, and if a certain group has been your enemies like forever, then there might be a reason for that. You
Yeah,
know,
pretty much.
not necessarily because they are evil or bad or anything. You just view things completely differently, and that will come to a head at one point or another. So you know.
Ah. The dancing penguin says Mouse ought to make friends with Doggo. That would be a strategy. The enemy of my enemy, after
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, oh my god, that reminded me of a video I saw on Twitter the other day. The text for the video was something like I don't remember if it was I really like working from home or if it was I'm so sick of working from home. And it's a man filming himself yeah, by his desk.
Oh,
And by his shoulders,
think I
his
know.
cat is sitting and is having a play fight with the dog. And you know, and the guy, you know, you just see his face, and it's oh my god, this is driving me crazy.
Yep. Just like to do a little bit of housekeeping. Thank you to our two hosts, Octavius and Ferocious Chihuahua. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you. I seem to have missed the first one of those hosts, so thank you very much to you too.
Yes. And we got Dangerfield in the YouTube chat. Hello.
Good evening. Good
And
evening,
welcome.
Dangerfield. Good to see you.
Oh, it's the Dangerfield. Which is a Dangerfield? Actual Dangerfield.
It is a bit hard to tell because there are imposters going around, but it's definitely a chance that it is the Dangerfield. So, if so,
well,
welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, actually, for the shout out that you gave half Europa on your stream. That was very kind. And
Yeah,
we do
thank
know
you.
a few scrubs in the crowd, and we're really grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Ferocious Chihuahua, for the 3 ice cream.
Yes,
And
thank you very much.
We did get a diamond as well, I think.
Oh, who do we get diamond from? Is that Ragnar?
Yankee Apple.
Yankee Apple. And I can see Ragnar's at the top of the donation list as well.
Mm-hmm.
Both got 100 there. And Ferocious Chihuahua, so thank you to all of you three for your lemons. It was wonderful to get donations.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have an entropy as well for those who want to contribute that way. We definitely appreciate all the contributions we get.
I shall indeed post the link. We've had an assertion in the chat that Reaper Cheap is based, which I have to agree. If anyone's read Narnia, Reaper Cheap was the head of Prince Caspian's knights and one of the main figures in rebellion against invaders of Narnia, the Telmarines.
Yeah.
He was a very based mouse.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Probably a bit bigger than the average mouse, though. So I don't know. Hopefully he wasn't doing steroids.
Hopefully not. I mean,
Yeah,
I think he was about the same size as your average mouse. He was just like really badass and stabbed people in the ankles and stuff.
yeah. I have only watched the TV versions of it. I don't think I've seen the most recent films. There was a series done by the BBC in the 80s, which went on a rerun in Norway for quite a few years, and I absolutely loved that one as a kid.
Nice.
Yeah, it was every Saturday evening, and we were out playing in the snow because it was sent during winter, and our parents had to make sure to call us in time for the Chronicles of Narnia. So yeah,
Yeah. I grew up with the books, and I've seen the modern films as well. A few of which are quite good. But yeah, the books are charming, and I think I still have my illustrated edition.
nice.
It's the kind of thing you want to keep for posterity,
Yeah,
for sure.
it's definitely one of the book series I want to get my hands on in physical form. I haven't read the books, so that should definitely be interesting. And thank
We've
you, Ragnar, again for another diamond, saying diamonds are forever, ladies. Well, those diamonds are. Otherwise,
Diamonds Are Forever was the De Beers slogan from the 50s
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, one thing I've never understood is that, oh, diamonds are a girl's best friend. They're not a girl's best friend. There's the best friend of a certain group which shall not be mentioned, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Bankers.
Yeah,
Yes. Them.
absolutely. They can keep them as far as I'm concerned. But D-Live diamonds, I definitely receive with gratitude. So, thank you.
Yes, the original first book is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe Ragnar, that's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, the lovely book series. Not quite as based as Tolkien IMO, but pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah.
But who can be as based as Tolkien, really?
Yeah, that's the eternal question, isn't it?
Jess maintains that diamonds are her best friend. I'm sure you and diamonds will be very happy together.
Yeah. Good evening, Jewel Citizen. Good to see you.
Oh, where's Jewel at? Is Jewel on the YouTube?
Yeah.
Hey, Jewel. Yeah, nice to see you. But yes, certainly one of the least likely to work out friendships we've had in our time reading folk tales. You could kind of tell where that was going.
Yeah. It should have been expected. Though, unfortunately, the mouse was talked around. So, you know,
Yes.
ladies, don't let anyone sweet talk you. Go with the gut, not with the words.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Instinct. We have them for a reason.
we do.
But we're kind of getting a little into the Yuletide mood
Yeah,
tonight.
next Sunday.
We're not going full Christmas.
No, but
a little bit.
next Sunday is first Sunday of Advent, so we thought we
Yes.
could warm up a bit with a bit more slightly Christmassy stories, you could say.
Yes.
We won't go into full Advent mode this year. We will cover other topics, but, Christmas.
I mean, because on the actual first Sunday of Advent, on the 5th, we have to discuss hell again.
Yeah. I don't think Advent is particularly tied to lust, so...
Oh, yeah, tune in next week for Dante's segment on Horny Jail.
Yeah.
Gonna be a laugh.
Yeah. So, we're warming up the Christmas season this week instead,
Indeed. So yeah, we've got a couple of like mildly Christmassy stories.
Mm-hmm.
And one of these is about friendship between two mice with different living situations.
I'm not sure I would say friendship. Perhaps a bit more rivalry.
Frenemies, perhaps.
Yeah. You in the chat can let us know what you think they are. Are they friends? Are they frenemies? Are they competitors or what? So let's hear about the town mouse and the country mouse. The town mouse and the country mouse. Once on a time there was a country mouse and a town mouse. They met on the outskirts of a wood where the country mouse sat in a hazel thicket and plucked nuts. God help you, sister, said the town mouse. Do I meet my kinsfolk here so far out in the country? Just so, said the country mouse. You gather these nuts and carry them to your house? Said the town mouse. Yes, I have to, said the country mouse, if we are to have anything to live on during the winter. The husk is big and not full this year, said the town mouse, so I dare say they will help to fill out the starveling body. You are quite right, said the country mouse. And then she told her how well and happily she lived. But the town mouse thought she was better off. And the country mouse would not give in, but said there was no place as good as in the woods and hills. And as for herself, she had far the best of it. Still the town mouse said she was sure she had the best of it, and they could not agree at all. So at last they promised to pay one another a visit at Christmas, that they might taste and see which lived best. The town mouse was the one that had to pay the first visit, and she went through woods and deep dales. For though the country mouse had come down to the lowlands for the winter, the road was both long and tiring. It was uphill work, and the snow was both deep and soft, so that she was both weary and hungry by the time she got to her journey's end. Now I shall be glad to get some food, she said when she got there. As for the country mouse, she had scraped together all sorts of good things. There were kernels of nuts, and polypody and other roots, and much else that grows in wood and field. All this she had in a deep hole on the ground where it would not freeze. And close by was a spring which was open all winter, so that she could drink as much water as she chose. There was plenty of what was to be had, and they fed both well and good. But the town mouse thought it was not more than sorry fare. One can keep body and soul together with this, she said, but it isn't choice, not at all. But now you must be so kind as come to me and taste what we have in town. Well, the country mouse was willing, and it was not long before she came. Then the town mouse had gathered together something of all the Christmas fare which the mistress of the house had dropped as she went about, when she had taken a drop too much at Yule. There were bits of cheese, and odds and ends of butter and tallow, and cheesecakes and tipsy cake, and much else that was nice. In the jar under the ale tap she had drink enough, and the whole room was full of all kinds of dainties. They fed and lived well, and the country mouse seemed never to have had enough. She had never tasted such delicacies. At last she got thirsty, for the food was both strong and rich, and now she wanted something to drink. "It's not far off to the beer," said the town mouse. "That's the drink for us." And with that she jumped up on the edge of the jar and drank her thirst out. But she drank no more than she could carry, for she knew the Christmas beer was strong. The country mouse thought the beer a splendid drink, however. She had never tasted anything but water, and now she took sip after sip. But she was no judge of strong drink, and so the end was she got tipsy before she left the dish. The drink got into her head and down into her toes, and she began running and jumping about from one beer barrel to the other, and to dance and tumble about on the shelves among the cups and mugs, and to whistle and whine as though she were tipsy and silly. And tipsy she was, there was no gainsaying it. "You mustn't behave as though you have just come from the hills," said the town mouse. "Don't make such a noise, and don't lead such a life. We have a hard master here." But the country mouse said she cared not a pin for man or master. But all this while the cat sat at the top of the cellar steps, lying in wait, and heard all their talk and pranks. Just then the woman of the house came down to draw a mug of beer. As she lifted the trapdoor, the cat stole into the cellar and struck her claws into the country mouse. Then there was another dance. The town mouse crept into her hole and sat safe looking on. But the country mouse got sober all at once, as soon as she felt the cat's claws in her back. "Oh, my dear master, my dear master, be merciful and spare my life, and I'll tell you a story." That was what she said. "Out with it then," said the cat. "Once on a time there were two small mice," said the country mouse. And she squeaked so pitifully and slowly, for she wanted to drag the story out as long as she could. "Then they were not alone," said the cat, both curtly and dryly. "And so we had a steak we were going to cook." "Then you were not starved," said the cat. "So we put it up on the roof, that it might cool itself well," said the country mouse. "Then you didn't burn your tongues," said the cat. "So then the fox and the crow came and ate it all up," said the country mouse. "And so I'll gobble you up," said the cat. But just then the woman shut the trapdoor with a slam, so the cat got startled and let go her hold. And pop! The country mouse was away in the town mouse's hole, and from it there was a way out into the snow. And the country mouse was not slow in setting off home. "This you call living well, and you say that you live best," she said to the town mouse. "Heaven gladden me with something less then, rather than having such a big house and such a hawk for a master. Why, I only just got away with my life." So, what do you think? Were they friends, enemies, or competitors?
Yeah, I feel like that was definitely um more of a situation where the town mouse kind of wanted to flex on someone else. Although, again, it sort of shows two different approaches to life. And what are you going to value more? Because you can't have it all. You can
Yeah,
either have all the interesting, fancy food and a low trust society in which you might get eaten on your own doorstep, or you can live simply and be quite
Yeah,
safe.
it definitely points to the difference between country people and town people, the city dwellers, because it's definitely a very different way of life. What I've heard for years here in Norway, when it comes to uh, being independent and being able to think for yourself and just do things, in particular when it comes to work. Um, it is said that most bosses definitely prefer people from the country because they're actually used to doing stuff by themselves, figuring things out, while those who have grown up in the city is basically used to being led by the hand with everything, and constant praising and getting affirmations and everything, very independent. And I can definitely understand why. With
Yeah.
Norway is a very sparsely populated country. We are the size of Germany when it comes to landmass, but we're 5.5 million. When I grew up, we were 4 million. So we have our cities, which are very small in international scale. But the countryside is also populated, but very sparsely. So when you do live out in the countryside, you can't depend on everything. You can't depend on getting a repair guy for something just because you need it. It will probably be easier and faster to figure it out yourself. If you do get hurt, it can be quite a distance to the hospital, so you're a bit more used to taking care of yourself and everything. So yeah, definitely a very different mindset between the countryside and the cities.
Yeah. I mean, there are some places in Britain which are like that too. Where you can't rely on transport, on bus services, on quick anything, but I think they're much fewer and further between than in Norway.
Yeah,
Because a lot of places are sort of semi-urbanized. A lot of our country is suburbs for various major commuter towns.
yeah, of course. Oh, what they called? It is down to population size in a certain area. So, if the entire area is heavily populated, then it will be a bit different from the sparsely populated countries or areas. But this isn't just to Norway, of course, as Bas is saying in the YouTube chat. That's the case everywhere for the most part. When you have a countryside which you are forced to be more independent. So that is basically down to
Yeah. I mean, everybody who comes from the rural countryside in Britain or Ireland can drive. Because you have to. Like, there's nothing else to do
yeah, that's in
other than
Norway as
drive to other
well.
places.
Yeah, countryside in Norway, you basically have to have a car. Um, I was took a trip to one of the family cabins earlier this autumn, and I did have to get a ride. And checking how long it would take me doing public transport. It's about 3-4 hours driving from here. If I do public transport, it would actually. How long was it? I think it might have been 16 hours or close
What?
to 24.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
the connecting lines basically isn't there. So, you know, you maybe need to get a hotel room just to go 4 hours drive, stay overnight, which is
Yep.
absolutely absurd.
It is quite absurd.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of poorly connected communities. But again, you know, as we discussed in that story, being far away from the benefits of the city also means being far away from the disadvantages of the city, which can often be danger
Yeah.
and general unsavory characters.
Yeah. The country life might be hard, but city life, it's more the other creatures, let's say, that is in the city. Um, that point was brought up last week when we had Dave on.
Mm.
The story with Howard, how he watched his hometown having a population boom because of the oil, and
Yeah,
going from a very small town in rural America uh, and having the population increase several times. Um, you know,
absolutely.
yeah, the
You really
criminality.
hated it.
Yeah, and criminality shot through the roof from what was initially a very peaceful town. So, you can't deny that. City life definitely tends to bring more criminals into your sphere. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's why there were sort of official sort of recommendations and betas and that for limits on cities.
yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Me too. They should really have a cap on them or something. Because after a certain point, it's just too many humans for you to know, or too big of an environment for you to be familiar with evolutionarily, really. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'd probably rather have Country Mouse's life.
Yeah, literally from the in-between area.
Mm,
So quite suburban, not far
yeah,
from the city or from the countryside. So, but I did live in a city for too many years. So I'm definitely drawn more to the country life where there isn't so many people around.
mm.
uh,
I mean, same. Definitely a suburbs kind of childhood, sort of within the belt, just about,
mhm.
of the nearest population center. And the suburbs are kind of like, I don't know. In some ways, they're a bit like the worst of both worlds. All of the lack of activity and none of the natural soul of the countryside.
Mm-hmm.
because you get, especially in Britain, you get these rows of absolutely identical looking houses, and
Yeah.
especially with some of the newer builds, it's just like, this is a little bit soul crushing.
Yeah, definitely the same in Norway. Where I grew up was one of the places that really sprung up with the population boom around Oslo. Um, so a few years before I was born, the population in that place literally doubled in a few years. Um, and you definitely see quite a few housing areas which are basically just to cram as many people into as little space as possible. Everything
Yes.
is identical except for the color of the houses and everything. Um, and that is still the case. I definitely don't like it, but the architecture these days is even more soul crushing than the
Hmm.
prefabricated that preceded them, and now it's basically just how to build as ugly as possible, and
Yeah.
preferably
Yeah.
above a shopping center, which I really don't get. Who wants to live in a shopping center? Literally live in a shopping
Oh.
center. Who wants to do that? Sorry, I don't understand it at all.
People who really like shopping and also fighting their way through throngs of people every time they want to get to their front door.
Yeah, maybe.
Ugh. Thank you, Promethean Reckoning, for the ice cream.
Yeah, thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Yeah. And I see we've got a poll going on about whose town and whose country. I think this might be subjective, because right now it's saying small t. But honestly, maybe I'd consider it not so, knowing what I know. I would have
Uh,
thought right now was pure C.
uh, that might be down to definitions. The major cities in Norway is literally a small city in most other places. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I do think I might be quite well living in a small town, as long as I was on the outskirts of the town, so that I didn't have that many neighbors.
Yes. I think yeah, small town. It's probably a good place to live, especially if maybe one of your family cannot drive or something.
Yeah, as long as you're not dependent on commuting to work, you can actually get away with not having a car in Norway, in the countryside, if you
Mm,
do, one big weekly shopping or bi-weekly shopping and
that's true.
spend the money on a taxi instead. That will actually amount to less than the expenses of having a car. So as long as you're
Feasible.
not, yeah, as long as you're not dependent on going anywhere regularly or quite often, that can be a solution for that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
there you go. And of course, in most places in the countryside in Britain, you could probably get an online shop delivered there because we're a smaller country. Oh,
yeah,
thank you, Courtney Nutjob, for the ice creams.
yeah. Thank you. I do think that might becoming a solution in Norway as well, but then you have to balance that with how much do you want to do your shopping online. But then I am prejudiced against the online shopping, so
Mm. They
Mainly,
they do make some stupid substitutions.
yeah,
To
they
be
do.
fair,
Uh,
um,
and with certain people wanting to push everything online, that you should only shop online and everything, I don't want to do it out of principle. And
that's true.
I have tried to buy clothes offline, online, I mean, and
That never works.
no, you don't never really know what you're getting, if it will fit you properly, even if you get the right color. And yes, that has happened to me. I didn't get the color I thought I was ordering. Did I manage to return it? Nope. Because then I would actually have to go and mail it back, and that was too much to be asked. Yes, I'm lazy.
Mm.
So, yeah, I shop physically as much as possible.
It's a good policy. The Dancing Penguin is proposing that Emmaville, Minnesota has a population of 20, and if we all moved there, we could take it over.
20, do you mean 20,000?
Nope. I think he said 20.
Oh, 20. That might
Population of
actually
20 people.
be livable. Uh, I have also lived in a place with a population of 20,000, and that was definitely too many people.
Fair enough.
Just 20, he clarified. Yeah, as long as you like them, I suppose that would be your ideal community.
Okay, Ballymoney has a population of 10,000 folk. Yeah, I'd say that was a small town then. That
Yeah,
would be my
something like that.
definition of a small town then, yeah. I
I
maybe
think
got the
it
impression it was more rural than just that.
in Norway, it mostly depends on the layout and where in the country it is. We have what is called tettsteder. It's not quite a village, but it's not a town. Maybe a bit more suburban-ish. Because it's more widespread, it doesn't really have a proper center or something like that, and it's not as dense as a city or a town. But in northern Norway, it is more concentrated and more townish, and then it's called a town. So depends on layout, the area it covers, and everything. So yeah. Definitions, man.
Indeed. So, we seem to have accumulated lemons in the chest. There's just sort of 200 something lemons in the chest, and they're kind of sitting there. Shall we open the chest?
Why not? It's been a long time since we've done a chest.
It is. It's been a very long time since we've done a chest.
Mm-hmm.
But it's accumulated lemons of its own accord. So
Oh, magical lemons, I suppose.
I think that's what happens. The longer you leave it, and the dear life puts some lemons in it, they just sort of drop lemons in the chest.
Oh,
All right,
that's nice of them.
let's put I don't know, 50 lemons of our own in it.
Breastfeeding.
And right, okay, let's go. Who's gonna get the lemons?
Oh, good question. I don't even get your reward thing coming up. No lemons for the links.
Oh no.
How bad. So,
Oh, nice. So we got Damn Dammy with 112. The Dancing Penguin got 64. Elliot Page got 47. And Billy Stick got 37.7.
Congratulations, everyone.
Yeah. Well done to you for getting those lemons. We
Yeah.
suppose that when the chest actually accumulates lemons, we shall distribute them.
Yeah.
No chest for the paradox.
Not for me either.
I'm not. Billy Stick donated 1 diamond. Thank you for the lemons. That's more lemons than you got. Thank you, Billy Stick.
Yeah, thank you. Dancing Penguin gave it an ice cream, so did that Dum Dummy. And the Dancing Penguin gave another ice cream, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. And so, to sort of end the show with tonight, and we'll be giving you the BBC's wonderful take on it afterwards.
Yeah.
For a bit of a laugh. We've got a story from a very popular British author whom many of us no doubt will have grown up with. It's a story from Beatrix Potter, who is, in my opinion, the undisputed queen of cute talking animals. This one. Yeah.
I think we actually have Peter Rabbit in Norway now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, modern animated show. I think I saw. I will admit I don't keep tabs on the children's show, but I did see it earlier once, so I actually knew what it was, which was surprising.
Yeah. But yeah, it's iconic, and we get a lot of tourists coming to that spot.
Yeah.
To see her house and stuff. I think she's quite popular in Japan and stuff as well, because they love all the cute stuff, don't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, this one is obviously about 2 bad mice.
Indeed.
The Tale of Two Bad Mice by Beatrix Potter. Once upon a time, there was a very beautiful doll's house. It was red brick with white windows, and it had real muslin curtains and a front door and a chimney. It belonged to 2 dolls called Lucinda and Jane. At least, it belonged to Lucinda, but she never ordered meals. Jane was the cook, but she never did any cooking because the dinner had been brought ready-made in a box full of shavings. There were 2 red lobsters and a ham, a fish, a pudding, and some pears and oranges. They would not come off the plates, but they were extremely beautiful. One morning, Lucinda and Jane had gone out for a drive in the doll's perambulator. There was no one in the nursery, and it was very quiet. Presently, there was a little scuffling, scratching noise in the corner near the fireplace, where there was a hole under the skirting board. Tom Thumb put out his head for a moment, and then popped it in again. Tom Thumb was a mouse. A minute afterwards, Hunca Munca, his wife, put her head out too, and when she saw that there was no one in the nursery, she ventured out on the oilcloth under the coal box. The doll's house stood at the other side of the fireplace. Tom Thumb and Hunca Munca went cautiously across the hearthrug. They pushed the front door. It was not fast. Tom Thumb and Hunca Munca went upstairs and peeped into the dining room. Then they squeaked with joy. Such a lovely dinner was laid out on the table. There were tin spoons and lead knives and forks and 2 dolly chairs. All so convenient. Tom Thumb set to work at once to carve the ham. It was a beautiful, shiny yellow, streaked with red. The knife crumpled up and hurt him. He put his finger in his mouth. "It is not boiled enough. It is hard. You try, Hunca Munca." Hunca Munca stood up in her chair and chopped at the ham with another lead knife. "It's as hard as the hams at the cheesemonger's," said Hunca Munca. The ham broke off the plate with a jerk and rolled under the table. "Let it alone," said Tom Thumb. "Give me some fish, Hunca Munca." Hunca Munca tried every tin spoon in turn. The fish was glued to the dish. Then Tom Thumb lost his temper. He put the ham in the middle of the floor and hit it with the tongs and with the shovel. Bang, bang, smash, smash. The ham flew all into pieces, for underneath the shiny paint it was made of nothing but plaster. Then there was no end to the rage and disappointment of Tom Thumb and Hunca Munca. They broke up the pudding, the lobsters, the pears, and the oranges. As the fish would not come off the plate, they put it into the red-hot, crinkly paper fire in the kitchen, but it would not burn either. Tom Thumb went up the kitchen chimney and looked out at the top. There was no soot. While Tom Thumb was up the chimney, Hunca Munca had another disappointment. She found some tiny canisters upon the dresser, labelled rice, coffee, sago. But when she turned them upside down, there was nothing inside except red and blue beads. Then those mice set to work to do all the mischief they could, especially Tom Thumb. He took Jane's clothes out of the chest of drawers in her bedroom and he threw them out of the top floor window. But Hunca Munca had a frugal mind. After pulling half the feathers out of Lucinda's bolster, she remembered that she herself was in want of a feather bed. With Tom Thumb's assistance, she carried the bolster downstairs and across the hearth-rug. It was difficult to squeeze the bolster into the mouse hole, but they managed somehow. Then Hunca Munca went back and fetched a chair, a bookcase, a bird cage, and several small odds and ends. The bookcase and the bird cage refused to go into the mouse hole. Hunca Munca left them behind the coal box and went to fetch a cradle. Hunca Munca was just returning with another chair, when suddenly there was a noise of talking outside upon the landing. The mice rushed back to their hole, and the dolls came into the nursery. What a sight met the eyes of Jane and Lucinda! Lucinda sat upon the upset kitchen stove and stared. Jane leant against the kitchen dresser and smiled, but neither of them made any remark. The bookcase and the birdcage were rescued from under the coal box, but Hunca Munca has got the cradle and some of Lucinda's clothes. She also has some useful pots and pans, and several other things. The little girl that the doll's house belonged to said, "I will get a doll dressed like a policeman." But the nurse said, "I will set a mouse-trap." So that is the story of the two bad mice. But they were not so very naughty after all, because Tom Thumb paid for everything he broke. He found a crooked sixpence under the hearth-rug, and upon Christmas Eve he and Hunca Munca stuffed it into one of the stockings of Lucinda and Jane. And very early every morning, before anybody is awake, Hunca Munca comes with her dustpan and her broom to sweep the dolly's house. The end.
So yeah, not every house is like the other, perhaps?
Well, I sort of took from it, not all that glitters is gold,
Yeah.
and to observe your surroundings and the likely situation you're in before taking any action. Of course, you know, it's also something about greed and disrespect of people's property and how it doesn't pay.
Yeah,
I would say.
I did find the fire that didn't burn quite funny.
Yeah. Because at that point, no soot in the chimney. They really, if they had an ounce of sense, they should have realized something was a bit up.
Yeah.
And certainly they were out to get a free lunch, but no such thing exists.
Yeah.
And this we all know quite well. I mean, usually if there's a buffet, there's at least somebody trying to recruit you to some sort of marketing scheme or society with it. You're
Yeah.
at least going to have to spend 10 minutes of awkward talking to someone for your lunch.
Yeah, well, they were kind enough to repay the damage and
They were.
sweep the floors every morning afterwards and everything. So,
Kind enough,
yeah,
or just very scared of the prospect of a mousetrap?
yeah, that too. It
Mixture. A mixture.
might also to put it into our days. Be a point of towards virtual realities.
Hmm. Yes. So everything looks real, but it isn't, and it's all a bit useless. Having fake things. I
Yeah,
do. It reminds me of people who are very obsessed with their Animal Crossing houses, decorating their Animal Crossing house and paying off their mortgage on that
yeah,
instead of working towards getting one. But then again, people have a tendency to escape into virtual fantasy worlds these days, possibly because many things have been made quite inaccessible or quite difficult to get for
yeah.
people as well.
We've been very atomized and
Absolutely.
quite cut off from real community, and then you get to know people that you get along really well with on the internet, and before you know it, you live your life on the internet and not in real life.
This is not me. Totally not me.
Yeah.
Oh
um,
God, I'm
yeah.
guilty.
Yeah, I do have that tendency as well. And worst case scenario, you sit in a situation where you absolutely hate your physical life, where you live, what you do, how you spend your days, and you escape into the interwebs. But that doesn't fix
Hmm.
your problem. The problem is still there, and you might even
No.
end up hating your life more and more for each day. So it really saps your will and what you need to do to actually make changes in your physical life in order to have a better life. And instead you just escape
Yeah.
into escapism.
So maybe another moral of the story is, you know, don't have the facsimiles of the thing. Don't settle for them. Don't be taken in by them. Try and do what you need in your life to get the real things.
Yeah.
But yeah. So maybe coming off that topic, because it's all a bit depressing. We can certainly talk about some other interesting interpretations of Beatrix Potter that
Mm-hmm.
we've found. So I came across a very interesting theory about this particular story. And that this particular story demonstrates Beatrix Potter's most vigorous contempt for the most accepted of Victorian social values. And apparently she is definitely on the side of the transgressor. Apparently she was positively gleeful in her description of how Vandal Mice, Tom Thumb, and Hunker Munker destroy a doll's house. The doll Lucinda lives there with her cook, Jane. The most of the story, Potter depicts the dolls as having nothing to do but sit around, pose, and look pretty in their tiny red brick abode. They're not only indolent, they lack common sense. After the dolls leave the house, the mice find the door was not fast. The proletarian mice try to eat the food the dolls left behind, but the ham and fish are actually made of plaster. They are an ornamental frippery of the rich. So the mice proceed to destroy the meal with fire tongs. It's flavorless, lacking in nutrition, rigid, and easily shattered. Then rip up much of the rest of the doll's house. The destruction of an artificial replica of Victorian household suggests that, for Potter, Victorian domestic life is just as artificial. The mice emerge as the good guys when they compensate Lucinda and Jane for the damage. And Hunker Munker goes so far as to sneak into the doll's house each morning and tidy up without the doll's awareness. The kind of hyperreal turn that Umberto Eco would have appreciated, writes Stuart Jeffries in The Guardian. Like the working...
Perfect example of projection, I would say. I read this story this way, so therefore the author meant that as well.
You know what makes it particularly funny? Umberto Eco is the guy who wrote a full list of how to spot a fascist.
Mm-hmm.
Which reads more like how to spot a list, how to spot a society with functioning hierarchies and boundaries.
Yeah. You know, as I said earlier, I should be surprised, but I'm not anymore. I was browsing an online bookstore this spring, and of course I just looked at what they had on fairy tales and folklore and everything, and one of the first books that came up in the search, I don't remember what it was called, but I do think it was the first book in that genre, which pointed out how Germany in a certain time period used folk tales actively to shape the mind of the people and how bad it was. Because of course that's not being done in our days.
No, totally not.
No, absolutely never. Never.
Current ideological narratives.
Yeah.
Definitely not being recast in inappropriate manners.
Never. So, just reading the blurb of the book was enough. No way I would have spent money on that crap. And also definitely a point of projection.
I mean, it's kind of ludicrous to me how you could take mice looking stupid trying to eat food that isn't real and then turn it into Comrade Potter and the struggle of the proletarian mice.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure how you go from don't smash up people's stuff, there might be consequences, like they decide to get a mousetrap, to this is definitely confirmation that Beatrix Potter was a communist.
Yeah. Uh, you know, I, I really find it mind-boggling how people are projecting as much as they are on other people's motivations, in particular people they don't know and couldn't know because they lived before their time and everything. It's yeah, it's just mind-boggling.
It is indeed. I mean, the article itself, yeah, not very coherent. Um, they sort of spend the preceding paragraphs talking about how Potter values industriousness and good business sense,
That
hates
might.
stupidity, and then somehow work around her being a communist from these bits of information.
Yeah, well, that really does sound like they had a so-called bright idea and then constructs a text around that just because, ooh, I have had a great idea. So therefore it must be something.
How does this line up? Potter's vision is that nature may be Darwinian chaos, but one can survive through hard work and good sense. Well, yeah, that's based. Forces of chaos. You must be the upholder of order.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the BBC doing what the BBC do.
Yeah. Articles like that really generally just lack logic and a coherent thought process in many cases. It's basically
Absolutely.
spinning yarn out of thin air for the most part.
I agree, donated a diamond and said, Gods, I hate the Guardian. Me too, I agree.
That
Me
reminds.
too. I think
That
I
remind.
actually used to read them back when
I
I
don't.
still paid attention to normie sources of news.
Well, being in Norway and really not paying attention to news, I don't think I've really read The Guardian before. Maybe the odd article here and there, but that is so many years ago that I don't even remember. But
If you read enough, you can imitate their style and headlines quite convincingly. And
yeah,
there's been
well,
a profitable trade in memes.
I do fondly remember Morgoth's series Hate Reading The Guardian. It was definitely a funny one. Oh, yeah.
Oh dear.
Then you can start talking about good entertainment.
Jess's cat has managed to catch a mouse, but she has no teeth. Oh, JC used to think it was the intellectual paper. Yeah, sames. You think you're so clever when you're like a teenager or something from reading The Guardian.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
A bit of on the midweight spectrum, perhaps, which people who think they are clever think what they write is clever because they are clever and because cleverness or something. Is
It's the usual sort of version of cleverness, as in take thing which has been fundamental to society, deconstruct it for no reason.
Yeah.
Uh,
I do remember
uh,
one animated film I watched as a kid. Fievel in America, about Fievel Moskowitz.
huh.
I that
Not heard of
was a
that one.
bit of a series. As a grown-up, I do see a bit of connections there that I didn't at the time. I'm not going to point any more out than Fievel Moskowitz. And he and his family came
Nope.
from Russia because to America because there are no cats in America. Na, 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 na. Or something like that.
Dear.
Yeah, it might actually be a bit interesting to rewatch that with a bit more of
It
an
might
open
be.
eye.
It might be indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like all of this modern projection on old stories, like trying to project the same sort of viewpoints that we have now onto Beatrix Potter doesn't work. Even if she wanted to get into science, she probably wasn't what you would today call a feminist.
Yeah. When I first started researching Dante, I came across the woman who wrote Penguin's translation. And many consider her a proto-feminist. She was one of the first women to get a degree from either Oxford or Cambridge or something in that. And while I wouldn't call her traditionally minded, I'm not convinced that she was a feminist either. She didn't consider herself a feminist. But today there is a lot of projection on what she was thinking and everything. So yeah, it's really prevalent and really annoying. Probably she was a woman of her time. Um, trying to make a life she wanted to live and everything. And that doesn't mean that they conform with today's politics by any means. So
Nope. Yeah. But yeah, Beatrice Potter remains dear to my heart, and I still have all her books, even if she is allegedly a filthy communist.
yeah,
And on that bombshell,
well, I have heard that from quite a few British people, so it does seem to be the prevalent view of remembering her with fondness, though I'm not sure how many knows that she apparently was a communist. So
yes,
maybe this will hit as a nuclear bomb in Britain. Do, do, do,
maybe it
do.
will.
Yeah.
uh, probably don't mention. I don't have to say bomb on YouTube. Probably not. Oh well. But Beer Marks Petra. Lol.
Yeah. Ah.
Ah dear. At one time, a
Well,
woman doing a degree course was seen as having a hobby. Yeah, we should actually bring back more learning for pleasure. I like that. I like that. But
yeah,
yeah,
I've been watching quite a few sewing videos lately, and it's really interesting what was expected a woman to know in, the late 1800s and everything,
Mm.
when it comes to handiwork.
It, it was by no means a little. Like, your upper class women really had to be proficient in sewing and singing and playing and drawing and languages. They had to be
And
proficient in quite a lot.
yeah, when it comes to sewing and everything, they were expected to know how to make all the undergarments by hand, for example. And when the novelty of the sewing machine kind of died down, people actually went back to doing quite a bit by hand again, because it was actually just as quick. And there are quite a few resources available on internet for on books from that time. So some of them also have instructions on sewing techniques, how to hold your hands, which direction to do things in and everything. So I definitely find that interesting. And I will probably start to look more into that.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly a folk art that we must revive along with all of our traditional stories, music, crafts. It's all important.
Yeah, I use knitting for relaxing as well as making clothing, obviously, both to myself and family members. I haven't sewn very much, but I have done a little bit of it, and it is actually very relaxing. Definitely better than staring at the screen. So, put on an audiobook, so you can learn something or listen to a great story or something while you're actually making things you will use in your everyday life. And you can avoid wearing plastic, as most people do every day, and go back to natural fibers and everything, and most importantly have unique clothing and find what is your style, have it fit you properly, which most store-bought clothing don't, at least not for me.
Yeah, it can be a problem, and of course, taking our crafts into our own hand, our growing, sewing, cooking, our music and entertainment just all serves to free us just that little bit from the matrix of consumerism.
Yeah.
So it's always very highly recommended.
Yeah, a few years ago, I read an article on clothing from the 1700s, and it made the argument that there was more diversity in clothing back then than there is now, because now everything is mass-produced. But back then, you basically chose the cloth you were working with yourself. Sometimes, of course, you had to make do with what you had. But, there was less of a chance to go to a party and experience what is supposed to be every woman's nightmare of another woman wearing the same dress as you. So,
Oh no.
yeah. I hear that is supposed to
To be fair, it do be weird.
I've never experienced it, so I don't know. Though I have seen quite a few women who look quite uniformed, but then I suppose I have done that as well, with their friends. So, yeah. Take up the needle, girls.
Yep. Take up the traditional crafts.
Yeah.
Whichever one you really have the most inclination and aptitude for, it's a little bit difficult sometimes to learn in the modern day, but we should all pick up something.
Yeah, there are quite a few resources on it, and on YouTube and everything, where you find instruction videos. My aunt, I don't know what it's called in English, but she took up one of those crafts. But there literally wasn't any information in English or Norwegian, so she sat watching, I think it was Italian videos, and she didn't understand the word, but she was basically just watching what they were doing and replicating that, and that's how she learned it. So, use the resources that you do have, and don't give in if you don't manage it all at once. Practice makes perfect, as they say. So
it does. It does indeed.
Jules Citizen comments. Now you more likely have to worry about a man wearing the same dress. True. That would definitely be awkward.
Oh.
I suppose I'll have to.
I hope he's not wearing the same thing as me.
Yeah.
Oh no, that'd be the worst.
Yeah, and in particular for those girls who need to be in control of everything and, coordinate outfits and everything, and now have to coordinate the dress of the boyfriend as well. That would be very difficult.
Oh. Literally a trend in Japan, not with the dresses, but like the sort of matching theme couple outfits. Quite cute. Yes, indeed, Ragnar. Building the positive community which was lost. Definitely.
Yeah, got another question. Got another question in YouTube from Carlotta, who asked if I play the Hardingfele. No, I don't. It's actually something I've more learned to appreciate as I grew older. I didn't quite like it when I was a kid, though I did always want to learn to play the violin, but I never got that far. So I don't know. If I get rich, maybe I'll buy one and pluck my way through it or something.
Oh, the special like understrings violin.
Yeah.
That's the Hardingfele.
Yeah. It does have a very distinct sound.
It is very distinct indeed. I suppose it's maybe it's a little bit divisive like the bagpipe is.
Yeah, I'll admit I can't stand bagpipes.
How dare you? They can really produce some nice music. A lot of the traditional pipes of the British Isles, that being the bagpipes, the Ulian, and the Cumbrian pipes, they have all got their sort of different advantages, and I think some of them you can adjust the pitch of the drone as well. But
yeah, I do.
They can get a little bit grating if played at a particularly high pitch for a long time.
Yeah, my mind always go to when you blow up a balloon and then let the air out while you're stretching the opening. So it gets this wheezing sound. That is basically what I associate with the sound of bagpipes.
Oh,
but as long as those who have it in their culture and of course play them and everything, as long as they like it, that is what is important. I'm not the target audience, so yeah.
Yes, national instruments. Sometimes only the nations that have them can love them. They were meant to be used in battle, yes.
Yeah,
That's
Uh,
very true.
that definitely says something about the sound, I would say. As it's not
Scaring
intended.
people.
Yeah, it's not intended as, pleasant music for entertainment. So, that is two very different concepts. There was one of the stories I did last year. I think it was the Tuftefolk story. I did watch quite a few videos on Norwegian folk music, and I actually quite liked it. Maybe
Well,
it was something I had to grow into.
there you go. Eventually, the blood ancestry will out.
Yeah.
Well, that's about all we've got time for tonight after upsetting several people about the bagpipes.
Yeah.
We should leave it there.
Yeah.
I
Me
like
and my
bagpipes.
controversial opinions. Never goes wrong.
Oh dear. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed our stories about mice and a little bit of Christmassiness in a few of those.
Mm-hmm.
And we will see you next week
Yes,
at
and
the same time.
as mentioned earlier, we will return to hell with Dante for the second circle, which just happens to be lost. Hold your horses. It won't be an X-rated show, but I do hope you
Oh
will
dear.
enjoy what we will have to review that night.
Is hell on that's the 5th of December, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So stay tuned for that. The next installment in the Dante series. Gonna be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And we hope you've all had a wonderful Sunday evening. And for the Americans, have a wonderful Sunday afternoon. And good night.
Yes, and have a wonderful week, and hope to see you next Sunday. Well, good night, everyone.